Today's topic is culture. On your follow-along guide, write where you think each of the following originated. Number 1, hamburgers and hot dogs. Number 2, chocolate. Number 3, democratic government. Number 4, Halloween. Number 5, number system. Number 6, hockey. Number 7, paper money. Now pause and write down where you think each originated. Good. Now that you've done that, let's check and see how well you did. This is a great example of cultural diffusion. These items you may have had contact with or dealt with in the last year. They did not originate here in the United States or in Olathe, Kansas. They originated elsewhere and diffused or moved to our country, in our city, in our state. Number 1, if you put Germany, you are correct. Ever heard of Hamburg, Frankfurt? These things originated in Germany. Chocolate. How about Aztec? If you put South America or somewhere in Central America, the Aztec ancient group of native people, you are correct. Number 3, democratic government. Greeks. Greeks is the correct answer. Many of you probably got this one right. Number 4, Halloween. Halloween came from the ancient Celtic people, spelled C-E-L-T-I-C, Celtic, in the Scandinavian or Norwegian area. I'm guessing maybe some of you said Mexico, and I can see why you might have said this, with the Day of the Dead. It seems like it may coincide with Halloween, but the traditional Halloween celebration that is practiced here in our country came from the Celtic people. The numbering system. This actually has Arabic roots from the Middle East. Number 6, hockey. How about Canada? Did you get this one right? Number 7, paper money. This one came from China. So if you wrote China or Chinese, you are correct. Now let's think about what defines culture and what your life is like. Right now, take a few moments to write down some things that describe who you are. For instance, you might be bilingual. Maybe you speak Spanish and English or another language. Maybe you are part of the skater subculture. Maybe you belong to band. Maybe you practice another sport or athletic or activity. What do you do at school? Do you belong to other clubs? How about a sport like soccer, baseball, track? How about theater? How about community service? How about board game club? How about being active outside of school, in your community, like at your church? Now, you should have written down several things that define who you are. Maybe you like to spend a lot of time on your phone and you like electronics, or maybe you're a big video gamer. Hopefully you have several things written down. I would say at least 10. Now, let's define American culture. Globally speaking, some people view Americans as, well, let's face it, fat and lazy. Where did they get that stereotype from? Let's think about things in our culture that allow people to arrive at this stereotype, even if it might not be true in all cases. We like a life of convenience, right? Drive-through service. We could drive our car around Olathe and pretty much do all of our errands without ever having to park, walk across a parking lot, and go inside. We can go pick up our medicine by driving through the drive-thru. Are you hungry? Would you like to pick up dinner? Go through the drive-thru. How about your dry cleaning? drive-through. Groceries, drive-through. Let's face it, most things you can accomplish without ever having to get out of your car. How healthy is it to pick up a Big Mac and drive around all day? Not really that active. Now you can see where this stereotype probably originated. Other things that define American culture. Think about our hobbies, our activities. We as Americans place a lot of value on celebrities. Think about who in our society gets paid the most. Teachers, policemen, not even the President of the United States. The highest paid people in our country are those athletes, musicians, celebrities, personalities on TV, etc. That has a lot to say about our culture and what we value as Americans. What else about American culture? Anybody go to a family barbecue over the summer? What about a holiday celebration? Which ones are popular? This all describes American culture. We must think of all these things when we define what is American culture. You should have several things written down. Americans value entertainment, video gaming, etc. Now, within the large umbrella of American culture, there are other subgroups or pockets within our culture. They are subcultures. They can be based on a variety of things. For instance, everybody in world geography belongs to the same subculture, at least one of them. You are all teenagers, so you all belong to the teenage subculture. But you also belong to several other subcultures. If you are a soccer player, you belong to the soccer subculture. Or if you're a theater person, you belong to that theater or acting subculture. Let's take the skater subculture, for example. If you do not belong to the skater subculture, you will not understand most of what they are talking about, because you see, skaters have a lingo. They have words that they understand that others may not. They have special equipment. There are different parts of their skateboard. Some of them are very expensive. They have different experts, literature, magazines, clothing, shoes. The truth is, if you're not a part of that subculture, you may be unaware of all of those things. Now, each of these subcultures exists within our American culture. You need to jot down a few subcultures that you belong to. I've given you one already, the teenage subculture. What about a hobby? What about your ethnic group? Do you speak another language? You can come up with many on your own. Now, let's break culture down into the 11 components. Food. Food is the first one. Think about our subculture is probably the easiest as we think about fast food. What about methods of food cooking? What about frying? Food describes or defines a group of people. The types of food that are eaten are indicative of the people, the lifestyle, and the geography of the land. Fresh fruits and vegetables might be common for one group more so than another. Processed, store-bought foods might be more common in one culture than another. Clothing, traditional dress, modesty. How do women and men's dress differ? Think about covering heads and faces in different Middle Eastern cultures. How about ceremonial cultures? Many of the Hispanic girls probably have had a quinceañera in which they have beautiful dresses and have people that dress up also in their ceremony. This would be another way culture is indicative, clothing is indicative of culture rather. Shelter, how does weather affect shelter? For instance, in the Midwest, we here both have heaters or a furnace and an air conditioner in our homes because it gets very cold and it also gets very hot depending on the season. In other places, such as Alaska, it wouldn't make sense to have an air conditioner because you would never need it. Or maybe in southern Florida, you would never need a heater or a furnace in your home. Maybe some homes are built on stilts around rivers. That would allow the flood waters to come up and not ruin things in your home. Social groups can be based on religion, wealth, and power, also your family. Languages. We have thousands of languages around the world today. We will also talk about different dialects, how changing the tone of your voice can also change the meaning, and accents, including our Midwestern twang. Or if you live in Boston, you might pock the caw. How about the arts? Music, visual arts, performing arts. This could also be movies, etc. The economy. Who controls the system? Meaning, does it matter what the consumers want to buy? In our economic system, it does. We have a market-based economy, which is based on the consumers and what they want to buy. The more things we buy, the more of that item is produced. It's called supply and demand. But there are other places around the world where the demand does not match the supply because the government controls the industry and decides what and how much is produced. Level of development. Developed versus developing countries. Sometimes we hear this as first and third world countries. It is important to remember that this is a spectrum, that you don't just all of a sudden become a first world country after centuries of being a third world country. In a first world country, the standard of living is much higher. People have access to food, clean water, medicines, health care, etc. Third world countries are not so much that way. They might rely on agriculture. There might not be a doctor available. They may not have access to medicine or even clean drinking water. Maybe not good shelter and maybe no schooling. Government. Government has a lot to do with the people. How much do the people participate? In a democracy, the people participate a lot by voting. In other forms of government, such as a dictatorship, there is not much people participation. Religion. Groups of people from all over the world ask basic questions of life. Where did I come from? Why am I here? What is my goal or my purpose? How should I live my life? Religion has come in for most people to answer these questions. That is why it is important to understand a culture, to also know what religion they practice, to understand how they approach life. And then customs and traditions. I mentioned the quinceañera. What about Christmas or Thanksgiving? What about wedding traditions? These are the customs and cultures that make up a group of people. Now, let's talk about elements of culture. There are two basic types, material and non-material elements. Material elements are those things that you can touch. They are tangible. Food, I can touch the pizza as I pick it up and eat it. Clothing, I can touch my shirt or my pants or my shoes. Buildings, I can touch the school building or any other building. Those are material items. Non-material items are abstract concepts. They are things you cannot touch, such as religion, ideas. Language, I cannot touch the language or the words as it comes out of my mouth. These are non-material concepts and ideas. Now, let's talk about family and community organization. Here we have how descent, heritage, and property is derived, and who holds the head of the family. For some it would be matriarchal or led by the mother, and for others it would be patriarchal or led by the father. Now, most societies around the world are patriarchal. That is, the father leads the family or the community, or in our case in the United States, maybe a combination of both mom and dad, although we have our fair share of matriarchal as well. However, on a large scale in communities and civilizations, matriarchal groups are found in China, Africa, Iceland, Albania, and India. This has been a brief introduction to culture. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation and take all these ideas to class as we further our exploration of culture in class as a group.